Hello, my name is Mercury, and welcome to this brand new episode of Media Buffet. Today, I am alone, and today I'll be discussing Like a Dragon Yakuza, the series that is an adaptation of the video game series Yakuza, aka Like a Dragon. They recently renamed the series to the entire franchise to Like a Dragon from the English name of Yakuza. And that's kind of started with the seventh game in the series, Yakuza Like a Dragon. And now here they've combined titles again to Like a Dragon Yakuza. And in Japan, this series is known as Like a Dragon Beyond the Game. I mentioned this in the trailer episodes we did for the series, but I've never played Yakuza. Although I did research it for the sake of this episode, and I do plan on playing Yakuza. Up until when we are right now, which is the 8th game, which is a lot of money to waste on this series, but that's beside the point. I am looking for a deal on Yakuza that is lower than 70 than what it's on now. Currently, it usually goes off for 50% off. I'm looking for 70. If 70 happens, I'll buy it then. I'll buy Yakuza Kiwami because you cannot get the first game. You can only get the remake. So I'll buy Yakuza Kiwami. Maybe I'll buy 2 as well if it's on the same price. Currently, both games are $20, but I don't know if I'm gonna like the series all that much. So I'm gonna buy Kiwami and maybe Kiwami 2. I know Kiwami recently came out for Switch. At least last year. Recently last year. We covered it last Nintendo Direct. And Yakuza Kiwami, I don't know if it's on Switch any better, but I'm not gonna take that risk. I'm gonna play on PlayStation. So yeah. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. I mean, yeah, we're kind of here to talk about it, but whatever. I haven't played the games. I did watch the series, and it took me a while. This episode is very late. I think this episode's 2 weeks late. Yeah, 2 weeks late. At least for now, it's 2 weeks late. It'll probably be better, but I'll try to get out every episode that we are due for the week for the last few weeks. Hopefully, between these next few days, I hope at least. But no promises. I can't promise it on all those fronts. I have to watch a lot of stuff. I'm telling you all, I'm gonna have to watch a lot of stuff. I'm currently watching Secret Level, which Secret Level is it's good for me, not the quality series, but actually like time wise. Because it's 15 episodes. That's a lot of episodes, but they're usually less than 20 minutes. It's not like this show. I'll get to the pace of Like a Dragon Yakuza. But yeah, Secret Level is good for me to finish at least in a few, and maybe even tonight I might be able to finish it. Because it's less than 20 minutes, it's 15 episodes. I'm already on episode 7, so I'm halfway through the series. I'm in a good spot to hopefully get it out by either Friday. I'm recording this on Thursday. I think this is supposed to come out. I think this is going to come out on Friday. If not, then whatever. So probably get it out between Friday and Saturday, hopefully. I know I'm not very good by keeping promises, but yeah, hopefully that happens. Anyways, not much more to say, aside from the fact that this is another video game adaptation review, another one that I haven't played yet. I think the last few I have not played. I didn't play the last one, which is the Lane of Lara Croft. I've never played a Tomb Raider game. It's a series that I'm not very interested in playing. In any sense of the word, I am not interested in playing Tomb Raider. But I am interested in playing Yakuza. I think it's a series I might really like. So yeah, I will hopefully I will hopefully at least be fruitful in some area. So yeah, I'm gonna hear on the. I reviewed a lot of these stuff, anyways. I have kind of played a Sonic game. I'm looking at this now. Haven't played Last of Us, which is I need to get on that. But yeah, just just looking it through here. Anyways, let's get into the show. Uh, if you guys want to watch it, inform your own opinion. I'm gonna get obviously. We're gonna get into spoilers. I've never done a fucking spoiler warning, but kind of want to put this in here. If you haven't watched the show, we do get the full spoilers off rip. So, yeah, and it's been quite a while since the show has come out. The show came out in October, so it's been a bit. It's been a bit since the show came out. Anyways, let's get into the show. Also, I will be comparing the show and the game a lot because I did do my research, and I know the Yakuza series. I'm not like a complete and utter. It's not like I don't know about the series. It's just that I haven't played the games yet. So let's just move into it officially. Starting with the action. What we always start off with. There's no CGI in the show, at least not a lot of it, and nothing. And if there is, it's nothing really that big. But let's get into the action now. For those who don't know, Yakuza as a series or Like a Dragon is very, very focused on its combat in the games. Its combat is very goofy, but it's the main selling point of the game. In Yakuza, you can use your environment as your weapon. You can hit people with chairs and shit in the streets and do some crazy ass moves. Obviously, the story is a bit more serious, but that's what comes from the game's big comedy. It comes from the combat and the action, and there's a lot of action in the Yakuza games. It is it's the big selling point of the entire series. So that should be something that Yakuza, like a Dragon Yakuza, should like have as the thing that is the big selling point, the action. However, the action in the show isn't there. What I mean, there isn't a lot of action in the show. Point blank, there isn't, and there's not a lot of flashy action in the show. It's not at all what the Yakuza action and combat is like from the games. Now, it's not like they can't adapt it. It's very easy adaptable. It's not like crazy ass fantasy sci-fi moves. It's just kind of over the top. It's like it's comedic. It's goofy. That's what the action of Yakuza is. And I know that's a really weird thing to. I mean, it's not really a weird thing to complain about here. But the action in the show, one, isn't true to the to the actual Yakuza combat from the games, and two, it's I have more points. The reason I have more points. Two, it's far too it's too far in between each other. Like, there's not a lot of action in the show proper, and there's a lot of exciting action in the show. Again, nothing flashy happens. It's just normal action. It's like normal, run of the mill action sequences, which it's fine. Like, that's my problem. There's too little of it, and when we get it, it's not fulfilling. It's not enough. it's really never enough. I don't. It's not that I get. Okay, fine. I get fucking bored watching it. I get bored watching. I get bored watching the action. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be a fucking thing that happens. With Yakuza, of all adaptations to have boring action, Yakuza is one of the ones that I didn't think would have that problem. I'm gonna talk about this later, but for comparisons, there have been other Yakuza adaptations that have come out in other years. There's a Yakuza movie that came out. That came out at some point. I don't know what it was called, but there was a movie. I'll look it up. Here we go. Like a Dragon. It was called Like a Dragon, or I guess Yakuza Like a Dragon in America, which was mixed. It was a mixed taking movie, but it's a black comedy or dark comedy, and I've seen people say that it's better. Like it's just a better adaptation. I'm not sure if that's the what it's what the general consensus is. Let me check. But it released in 2007, and it was a this guy looks a lot more a lot more like Kiryu. What the fuck? Anyways, I'm gonna look up some reviews. Jesus Christ. Alright. So, people say that they really do like a movie. But yeah, it's it's received well. Apparently. Well, for some people. But yeah, great game adaptation, bad execution. Incredibly terrible. Okay, people like it, but it's a better adaptation of the games. I feel like it's a movie, sure, and movies, at least for me, I'm gonna fucking relive this later. Fun fact, I'm going to review the Borderlands movie. Not excited for that. Just putting it out there, I'm not excited to review the Borderlands movie. But to get to the point, I think that movies are not the best way to adapt a video game. It is not optimal. In my opinion, it's not optimal. Not if you're 100% sure you can adapt a movie into a video game into a movie. I say go for it, but if you look at yourself and you're looking at having to cut things to meet like the 2-hour runtime or around there, like it's getting too long, just make a series. I think making a series is a better way to adapt a video game. Now, there are good video game movies, I do admit it, but the best ones take elements from the video games and make them their own stories. For example, the Sonic movies. The Sonic movies are movies that take, of course, they're fucking movies, but they take from the video games. For example, most recent one, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. It is technically speaking, an adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2. But it doesn't have the setup from Adventure 1 or any of the other games that might lead into Sonic Adventure 2. And even then, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 isn't the perfect adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2. Because it doesn't have all the characters, it has characters that it adds, it doesn't have all the elements from it, but it's a fantastic movie, I think. And it does it well. It makes it takes elements from Sonic Adventure 2. It's not trying to be a full-on one-to-one adaptation, but it takes elements from the game and tells its own story with those elements. Now, with a show, you have a lot more wiggle room with that. You have the time. You can order. You probably can't order the episodes to fit with the time, but you have more time to tell the story of the games. So whenever I see a TV show made a TV show adaptation of a video game, I set my standards a bit higher, because I know that they have the time to really adapt the game, which didn't happen in this. I will say that I gave Legend of Lara Croft like more benefit of the doubt. Not benefit of the doubt, but like I gave it more leeway because it was trying to tell its own story within the universe of the games. And I feel like that's really the best way to do a video game adaptation. It's not adapting the video games one to one, it's making your own story within that universe, or taking elements from the games and making a movie out of them. That's it. That's like the. I think it goes like this. Like it goes. For me at least, it goes making your own story, like and how to adapt a video game into like another medium. It goes making your own story of those characters in the same universe. Then below that is taking the elements from the games and adapting that into a movie, but making your own story as you go on. Then is making the video game into a TV show, and then at the bottom it's like making it into a movie. That is like the bottom. I guess in the middle you can put making it into an animated series. We're gonna see that later on in the year with the Devil May Cry series, which is coming out in April, next month. Which I've never played a Devil May Cry game. I mentioned this in the Devil May Cry trailer episode. Never played a Devil May Cry game, but I will review that series at some point within the year. Anyways, back to this. Fuck, what was I talking about? Yeah. So I set my standards higher for the show, because this is supposed to be an adaptation of not only Yakuza, the first Yakuza game, but Yakuza 0, the prequel. And it did sort of do that, but it did kind of my top two way of adapting video game and the top three, mixed them together, and it came out shit. Not shit, bad. It came out bad. But anyways, moving to talk more about the action. Doesn't really fit anything. It doesn't fit the style, and yeah, because I realized that I'm gonna be getting into the fucking plot. I just really fucked that that segue. Not even a segue. Okay, going back to before what I was saying, yeah, it kind of, it's not, they did sort of a mix of that, and it didn't come out well. And I think, I think that's, it's a big part of why a lot of series doesn't work. Not especially the action, but I think the action does take kind of a hit from this, because they kind of have to think about how they want to adapt the story, and the action kind of suffered because of that. And yeah, And also, what doesn't really, and something that really worries me a lot when making a video game adaptation, is the fact that some people do not research the games at all. Sure, I haven't played all these games. I am like on the same level as the guys who are writing this. That's worrying. I mentioned this in the Lara Croft episode, I believe. But what these shows should strive to do is not appease the fans. That can be in here. Fan service for the fans, that's fine to put in these shows. But that shouldn't be what the shouldn't be the main focus on of the writers and the show as a whole. I think that video game adaptations should instead be more focused on, what do you call it? Of targeting the general audience. I'm gonna be completely real. Video games aren't the biggest medium. Sure, it's the biggest medium, of course, but that's like, well, the most profit generating medium. That's because video games cost a lot more. It costs a lot more for the consumer to buy than paying a subscription or going to the movie theater. That's very general, but yeah, it costs more for an individual person to buy a subscription. It costs less to buy a subscription or go to a movie theater and watch a show or watch a movie than to buy a console, which right now, if you want to play the best games of, if you want to play the latest games of the generation, the lowest price point the lowest thing you can, the cheapest thing you can buy to play all those games is the Xbox Series S, which costs $300. That's a lot more than going to a movie theater or buying a subscription. Let's be fucking real. And it's not just the fact that you have to buy a $300 console at the minimum. If you want to get into the best way to play, like the best way to play a video game of all time, the best way to play a video game, it would have to be a PC, which can, if you want to get a really good one, that's easily like probably $500 to like $700, maybe even $1,000. It's a lot of money, and if you just want to stay in consoles, that's fine. The range of like the range goes from $300 to the $700 PlayStation 5 Pro, which is an absolute fucking scam, but that's besides the point. Yeah. It's a lot of money to get into to play a game. That's what I'm trying to get at. So, I think that video game adaptations should strive to introduce the franchise to a general audience and not paint it in a bad light. So, I think that it should be as accurate as they can be, because I think that these adaptations should instead be selling the game to fucking people and making people buy the game. Sure, it's the main focus should be to entertain, but secondary should be to make people be interested in the franchise and see how the games play out and all that. Like, buy the games. That's good. Maybe hell, they don't even need to buy the first game. Maybe the show does a good enough job of adapting the first game that they feel ready to jump into the second game and go from there. Like that's fine. That's probably even better. Sales, whatever. Like it's good to be as a good adaptation as you can be. However, for that you need people who know the games and who have played the games. like the Halo TV show that I reviewed 3 fucking years ago. The people that made Like a Dragon Yakuza, which, by the fucking way, this is a Japanese show. Like a Yakuza as a franchise comes from Japan. This is made under Sega in Japan. And some absolute, like, some absolute perfect adaptations have come out from Japan. Some of the absolute best video game adaptations have come out from this fucking country. And you're telling me that they couldn't find a single fucking writer that touched a Yakuza game? That is baloney. Horseshit. What the fuck do you mean? Like, that's my main thing. Like, you think that it'd be, I don't know, better to, like, it'd be easier to find somebody, like a writer or something, in here, that, like, in Japan, that at least played the games or knows about the games, because it's made in their own goddamn country. But no, it doesn't happen. I can't find the fucking writers for this. There's just nobody listed aside from Yugo Nakamura, which is one of the creators alongside Sean Crouch. That's it. Those are the only people that are fucking credited here, aside from the executive producers, which are Eric Barmack, Roberto Grande, Joshua Long, and Masayoshi Yokoyama, which is the head of RGG. For those who don't know, RGG is the studio behind the Yakuza series, but yeah. Anyways, apparently none of the fucking writers had played the game before, and that really shows in the action, where the action looks nothing and like feels nothing like the action of the video games put into this format. So let's get into the other thing that makes it seem a bit weird. The characters. If you hear rain, I'm fucking sorry. Let's get to the characters. First up is Kazuma Kiryu, our main protagonist, and the protagonist for a lot of the Yakuza games. Okay, Kiryu. I feel like Kiryu is an interesting case in this franchise. He is not treated at all like he is in the games. At least from 1995, the 1995 portion of the show. He acts nothing like he does in the games. It's mostly set in the orphanage. Not mostly, but it revolves more around the orphanage side, which is accurate to the games. Sure, I will not deny that. And that could have been an interesting way of adapting the video games. That could have been interesting. We've never seen that before in the video game, to my knowledge. And at least it would have been a new perspective that maybe a show, like a format like a show, would have been able to adapt well, and would have been able to show us in a better way than a video game could. There are advantages to making a TV show over a video game, and there are stories that you can tell in a show that you can't tell in a video game. Fair. That's like a fair thing. But that's not the case that we see here. And Kazuma, like I said, he's not really treated like the games. He's not, in at least in 1995 in the version in the 90s. It's nothing like you see in the games, and he's not treated that way. When we get to the 2000s, he's a bit more like what I expect the game Kazuma Did I say Kazuya? I said Kazuya, didn't I? Fucking hell. I'm gonna say Kiryu. Kiryu, I feel like when we get to the time skip, or at least like when we switch back to 2000s, he's a bit more like how the Kiryu from the games I think acts like, at least like a little bit more like that. But the 1995 versions, like they had that, like I said, they had the orphanage plot that they could have established, but they didn't really do anything with it. It kind of went straight to Yakuza 0 stuff, which is really unfortunate that it's not set in the 80s, because in the 80s, because for those who don't know, Yakuza 0, the prequel, set in the 80s, with the start, with Kiryu being sort of new to the Yakuza as a whole, and the Tojo clan specifically, and it's about like the housing market in the 80s and late 80s in Japan, and how they built the big tower that's it's both in the show and the games, called the Millennium Tower in Kamurocho. So yeah, it's like it's a big thing. It's a big part of Yakuza 0, and that's not present in here because it's not set in the 80s, it's set in the 90s. In the mid-90s, for fuck's sakes. Like, yeah. Obviously, the show combines the Yakuza 0 plot with the prologue of the first game, and that's what happens. Like that's mainly what the 1995 version, part of that story is set in. But I don't know. I feel like it didn't work, and it didn't really add anything to Kiryu's character as a whole. And we don't see, and obviously we see him. I mean, it did add. We did see him like care about his family, even if it's adopted family, and then carries over to 2000 plotline. But I feel like Kiryu is missing characterization in this show. He's not as, like, sure, I kind of get where he's coming from, but he isn't as characterized, it's like, if that's even a fucking word, as I would have felt him would be. So yeah, and that's mainly because we are missing the entire Haruka plotline from the games in Yakuza 1, which is what this show is trying to be based on, mainly. The game is centered around Kiryu finding this girl called Haruka, and her mom being called a woman called Yumi, which we'll get into here. Yumi, who I'm pretty sure stole, like, here. Where is it? Plot. Yeah, Yumi Sawamura. Here we go. Yeah. And that Yumi, like, spoilers for the game, Yumi stole 10 billion yen from the Tojo clan's private bank. Now, yeah, it's a thing that it's there. I was gonna say, yeah, it's like a big part of Kiryu's character in the games, and he takes care of Haruka. But that's not part of the show at all. Haruka is a very, very minor part of the show, and it's a big deviation because instead, in the show, what the show does is that instead of it being instead of the show really revolving around finding Yumi, which is Haruka's mother, and in this show it's mainly about finding Aiko, which is Yumi's big sister. We'll get into that later when we talk about the plot. But this show, at least to me, felt like because of that, I felt like there was a lot of characterization missing from Kazuma. That his relationship with Aiko and Yumi, which were two characters pretty much invented for the show, I got into that later, didn't fill. It didn't fill the hole left in Kiryu's character. the guy at Yakuza. No. There was a hole in Kiryu's character that not only this brothership with Nishiki didn't fill, because Nishiki is handled differently than he's in the games, and again, that's actually the next character I want to get into, but his his tie to Yumi is replaced and tied to Aiko, which isn't explored in the game. And because Yumi is a full ass grown adult, it's not something that Haruka, there is not a Haruka substitute in the in the story, and nothing they can really do about that. So Kiryu loses characterization, but it tries to sort of fill in a hole with, again, both Aiko, Yumi, and both the three, Aiko, Yumi, and Nishiki. They do play a really, really, really big important. They do have a really big importance, or they put a really big importance on it. Kiryu and Nishiki's brothership. That's something that we see a lot in the show. But I feel like it's less on Kiryu's side, which is why I kind of feel it falls a bit flat on Kiryu's side, at least. It's not handled the way that I think it should have been handled, and it's not handled in a very impactful way. So I think Kiryu's character does suffer a lot in the show, and doesn't feel like he grows at any point in time. There's no character development, which, I mean, it's what I said. I think I've said it multiple times. I think static characters are fine, but Kiryu in the games isn't a static character, but in here he is. Interesting take. I don't think it worked. I really don't think it worked. So let's move on to there's a lot of stuff, and we're already fucking 40 minutes into this episode, and I haven't touched the fucking show yet. So let's wrap up the pace a little bit. Nishiki is up next. I think Nishiki is the best written character in the show, but that doesn't mean he's well written. He's handled the best. So Nishiki in the game, let's talk about the show first. In the show, again, he's Kiryu's adoptive brother. And he also goes into Yakuza, but he goes in a different direction. The game, the show, I think the show handles it, I think, in a more streamlined way than the games, and I think Nishiki's character makes sense within the context of the show. It's a bit goofy with the real that he's like the demon of Shinjuku, and him and him kind of knowing all the stuff that he does and all that. But I feel like the way this show sets it up is fine. It's a bit cliche, but I feel like it is fine. It works. It's a big departure from the games, But I feel like this departure could have worked if we stuck more to the games. I feel like this one. I think this departure is is at least somewhat more makes a lot more sense for the show to try to adapt. So in the games, Nishiki murders the head of the Tojo clan. Oh, no, the Dojima clan, or something like one of those. I think it's Tojo clan. He murders the head of the Dojima family. To put it simply, in both the games and the movie. In the show, he's done from a very different reason than he does in the games. In the show, he murders the leader because he conned Nishiki into getting him a lot of money from Kiryu's match with another boxer. Basically, without the show, Kiryu is trying to become the Dragon of Dojima, which is a departure from the games, but whatever. It's like, I don't know if it works, but it's different. I feel like a bit weird. But basically the boss, Dojima, tries to profit off of that fight, and Nishiki's sister Miho, which we'll also talk about later, is has like I think kidney failure or something. I think it's kidney failure, and she dies from it, and it's revealed that. And throughout the show, we're led to believe that that the leader of the Dojima will help Nishiki with his treatment if Kiryu loses the next match, so he can make a lot of money and get a donor. So he can give that to Nishiki, so he can pay the donor to donate a kidney. However, Dojima cons Nishiki, and Nishiki murders Dojima. And like in the games, it's a different reason, which it's a bit more it's a bit more brutal than in the show. But Kiryu does take the in the games, he does take the fall for the murder of Dojima, and that's why he's incarcerated for 10 years. Now, Nishiki as a whole, I think it's all fine. It does streamline it more a bit, since in the games, his sister, which is called Yuko in the games, does die from complications, I think with her heart. But I feel like this one streamlines it a lot more, and I feel like this reasoning could have worked in the context of the show, but it didn't. I think that it's surrounded by a lot of stuff that didn't work, which leads to the falling flat, and especially what happens in the finale, where it's revealed that again Nishiki is the demon of Shinjuku, and he's gonna take down the Yakuza. And he's led them all to his trap, to kill each other. And that is super cartoon villain. Holy fuck! It is not bafflingly stupid. No, it's bafflingly stupid. He's the leader of the Omi syndicate, or whatever the fuck it is, and he is going around and he's putting little pieces. He stole the 10 billion yen, so the different Yakuza clans would combat each other, and he could watch them die and whatever the fuck. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's so weird. It's so weird, so badly handled. I I don't like how they went with Jiggy's character here. And I feel like it's a big departure from the games because in the games he sacrifices himself to defeat the main villain, which is not part of the show at all. So yeah, yeah, it's a big departure. It could have worked, but it went within the context of the show. This probably could have. I think even with the context of being Yakuza, I think this wouldn't have worked. It went too goofy. It went too goofy. Just yeah, that's all I gotta say. It went a bit too goofy. So let's move on from Nishiki. I think I stand by my statement that I think 1995 Nishiki is the best written character in the show, but 2005 Nishiki is not a very good, well written character. So let's move on to Yumi. And now what I mean, I know I mentioned that Yumi is in the games, but she and Aiko are pretty much the same person in the games. Again, Haruka is Yumi's daughter, and Yumi stole the 10 billion yen. There is no, to my knowledge, there is no Omi clan. But everybody in or maybe there is, I'm not sure. But yeah, everyone is looking for Haruka, and everyone's trying to find Yumi because they want to. Oh, this is the Yumi Alliance. Yeah, that's in the games. I'm fucking stupid. But the rival Yakuza organization. It's not like a whatever the fuck it's in the show, like a anti-Yakuza organization. But yeah, it's a lot more simple there. Yeah, and Yumi in this show is similar to the games, but also a very different character. A completely different character, pretty much a new character. She helps out with the cast in the show, but it's not. It feels like she was retroactively added into the show. That's really the best way I can put it. It feels like she was retroactively added into the show instead of her being a part of the original narrative. Like it feels like she just had to be there. And she's in a lot of scenes where I think like she just does nothing and adds nothing to the plot. She's pretty much a nothing burger character that comes from splitting a character in two, pretty much. And essentially, I think the plot really suffers because she's meant to be the big anchor point for Aiko, but Aiko as a character has her own fucking problems. So Yumi doesn't really work as a character because again, she's split off from the character that we see in the games, and she is giving nothing else to fluff out the things that she's missing, the parts that she's missing as a character. So there's that. I feel like she isn't given much characterization in the 1995 or 2005 version of events. Like the different time periods. She tries to find her sister. Like in the 2005, she's very focused on finding her sister, or at least tries to find out what happens. But that like it's almost a nothing. But everyone that gets it's like a non motivation because everybody's looking for her fucking sister. So whatever. So yeah, I think Yumi is one of the weaker characters in here. But yeah, that's really what I'll say about her. It's that's just it. So yeah, Yumi is undercooked as a character, I feel. So let's move on to another character, Miho, which is mostly used as a plot device for Nishiki. I think she's handled well enough for what she is, and what her role was. I'm not particularly mad at it, but it's there. She's a there character, but I think she does her role well enough for me to not really find any complaints about it. And it's honestly really sad what happens. I forgot to mention this, but it's revealed that even though Nishiki was conned into doing, doing what he was into doing what he was told by Dojima, uh, Miho would have lived if he just gave Nishiki if she was just given Nishiki's kidney, she would have been safe the whole time. And she was basically, and Miho was basically fucked from the start, because if she would have gotten a treatment at a better hospital, she would have lived. If she was given Nishiki's kidney, she would have lived. Like, Nishiki played right into Dojima's traps, and I feel like that works better for Nishiki's motivation, especially for a general audience to understand. But it is different from the games. But sometimes that's better. But I don't know. Like I said, I feel like these adaptations should be more gateways into the games, and there might be some differences. Who knows? Again, like I said, if you're a good enough adaptation, maybe you replace the game pretty much. That's not ideal, but it can happen. But this show doesn't really do that, and I think this show wouldn't have done that anyways. So yeah, Miho does a job. Aiko, on the other hand, suffers, I think, more from what Yumi did. Aiko is pretty much a completely new character. The only thing she has that actually takes from the original character of Yumi from the games is the fact that she's Haruka's mother. She dies, or at least it's implied. Maybe, I don't think she dies, but she is close to death in the finale, and she stole the 10 billion yen. That is the only thing she's given in the plot. She's made to be again, like an emotional anchor point for Yumi. An emotional anchor point for Yumi. I know I probably said fucking nothing there, but whatever. She's important to Yumi's story, but like I said, Yumi is missing characterization. I don't feel like we get a lot of that. So, in turn, Aiko is missing a lot of characterization. Aiko is solely lacking anything. I thought that Aiko was supposed to be part of like the orphanage sort of stuff, because it would have made sense. I think it would have made sense that she would have been part of that. I think she was. It was never really explored. So, none of these people in the actual cast have a connection to her aside from Yumi, and again, Yumi's undercooked. So, turns to Aiko being raw pretty much as a character. It is raw. She has nothing on her as a character. It is bizarrely handled. Bizarrely handled. Yeah, just otherwise she's not a good character. Like, personality-wise, I didn't like her. Like, this show tries to put a big emphasis on Aiko, but because she's a character that does not exist in the games, and they have to retroactively add to the show, and I guess to the game's plot, it suffers. It really does. There is no connection there, especially with what the games offer, which is the fact that Yumi is Kiryu's childhood friend, and Haruka is he's almost an uncle to Haruka in a way. So there isn't that connection here. We don't see that. Sure, Yumi is still Kiryu's childhood friend, but that doesn't really do much when the story isn't about her, and it's not really revolved around that. And it mostly hinges on Yumi and Aiko's relationship. But again, we don't see a lot of that. So, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Let's move on to our kind of final character, Kazama. I think he's a sort of very minor character, but he shows up for both 1995 and 2005, and it's very confusing as to what the fuck we're even on. But yeah, he was the original Dragon and Dojima. Sorry for fucking spoiling for you, but that's not a title in the games. That's just what Kiryu is called. So, what the fuck? Anyways, It's yeah, he's there. I think he's one of the better characters here because there's nothing really more to fuck up in the show. I in the context of the show, he's barely there, but he does do his things. But I think he's a bit unclear because it's very confusing because he almost doesn't change between both 1995 and 2005. So what the fuck? So yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like Kazuma's almost a nothing character, but he's sort of important. But I feel like it's not handled well because none of his like also that Kazama is sort of the adoptive parent, that the father of all these characters. So Kazama not work, these characters not working means that Kazama doesn't work, and its motivations are a bit unclear in the 2005 version of events. Like, the 2005 portion of the show is there. And some other characters I want to mention. Well, this is really there only for me to fucking talk about. Majima, Goro Majima. He's in the show for like 2 seconds, pretty much. We see him lose his eye for like a big character that's in the games and got his own fucking game. He has his own game in February, a few weeks ago. That came out. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which is the best title to anything ever. He has his own fucking game, and he's in here for 2 seconds. I love the way he fucking rocks up to the final fight. He comes in like twirling the bat, and it's like it's like a panning it's a panning shot, and coming in, skipping on it, skipping to the battlefield, and somebody goes, "Majima's here," and and he starts fighting. It's the most random introduction ever, and he is in there for like maybe a minute. It's so weird for a character that's so vital to the plot. And the thing is, Majima is accurate. Like, to my knowledge, he's accurate to the games, and he's the only one that like looks accurate to the games, and they do nothing with fucking Majima. It's so weird. He's a big guy. He's a big character in the games. He's one of the first characters you see in Yakuza Kiwami. And nothing. He's a big character in the series overall. What the fuck? What the fuck? So yeah, this was just the Goro Majima section pretty much. Anyways, let's talk about the plot. So it deviates a lot from the games, and like I said, this can be a good thing and this can be an acceptable thing. But here, no, it really isn't. What I want to mention is that there have been a lot of adaptations for Yakuza as a whole from the first game. Those illustrated to me by a YouTuber I forget the name of, but he said that he is like this is a very divisive show within the fandom because some people I agree that it's better for this show not to adapt the games one, to at least not it gets some leeway with its adaptation, because there have been a lot of adaptations of Yakuza Kiwami, or like the first Yakuza game as a whole. It's been adapted into the movie, which I said previously. It's been adapted into manga or comics, and it's been adapted into screenplays. And we have the game as a whole that you can buy right now. I would agree if all of those adaptations weren't Japanese exclusive. The big problem is that this is that all those adaptations are Japanese exclusive, and also yes, they fucking do stage play video game adaptations, which is a choice for a medium. But besides the point, yeah, there's been a lot of adaptations of the game, and I think some people would be in the right if if those adaptations weren't just in Japan only. And this one is the first adaptation to be widely distributed on Amazon Prime Video, which, excuse me, is a very big platform. It has a lot of very big shows like Invincible, The Boys, Hello Boss, Hazbin Hotel. Another show out here, Reacher. Like it has a lot of shows. So yeah, Lord of the Rings of Power. Like there's a lot of shows on Amazon Prime. A lot of good shows. Maybe not those. Maybe not Hazbin Hotel and Rings of Power, but that's beside the point. I've not watched Rings of Power, but I have not heard good things. I did watch Hazbin Hotel, and it was not good. Go watch a review on Hazbin Hotel. I want to do a review on Hell of Boss Season 2, and I am not excited because the first half of Hell of Boss Season 2 is about the worst thing I've ever seen in my goddamn life. But again, besides the point. Anyways, moving on. Going back to that. Going back to what I was saying previously. This show should have been more accurate because I feel like this is the first time really seeing that more people outside of Japan are seeing the Yakuza series and an adapted format, and we've been introduced to the series more. So so it deviates too much. I feel like that's why it's not as acceptable, at least to me. It's sure it would have been our 15th billion adaptation of the first Yakuza game, but it would have been the first to be widely distributed and it would have reached a bigger audience. But that's not the case here. It wasn't the case. So I feel like the deviation from the games really hurts the series because again, characters lose motivations. I think some things might have not flown as well. Might have not have flowed as well as in the games, and you get a lot of the stuff in the games revolves around the characters, and that's something that's sorely lacking in the show. And the plot suffers a lot of confusing stuff. And a lot of the confusing stuff, I feel like it's because of the flashbacks. Again, and it's an entire plot line from 1995 to 2005. That is like an entire plot line in two different parts of the show, and both being here and both clashing don't work. A lot of the show early on, sort of takes it removes a lot of the tension and build up when we cut back and forth between both time periods. And it does, and I feel like it works more towards the end. But early on, it's a bit, it's a bit too much, and I think it takes away time from especially the 2005 time period. I feel like the 1995 time period is one of the better written parts of the show, but at the cost of the main narrative. This show should have been about the 2005 portion of the story, but it's not. It's mostly put into the 1995 version, or 1995 segment of the story, and not the 2005 one, which is the main part, which is the Yakuza 1 adaptation. So a lot of stuff is taken away from that to put into the 1995 version, which is pretty much a sort of a story they made for the show. So yeah, no, I feel like that a lot of that clashes with the narrative they want to tell, and the show again suffers because of that, and it becomes a lot more incoherent and messy. Another thing I want to mention is the tone. Sure, I know the Yakuza games are serious. They're serious games, but the combat is goofy, the circumstances are goofy, and that's sorely missed from the show, especially when we look back at the action. There's a lot of it. This show doesn't feel like Yakuza. It feels like a normal-ass crime show that just has the name Like a Dragon Yakuza slapped on it because whatever, right? It needs to be. They want it to be, but they never bothered to really research the games to actually get the tone of the games right and try to make this a worthwhile adaptation. So yeah, And also I feel like nothing I mentioned here, but I feel like the the main reason why the Flash was like, interrupt the narrative a lot, and why I feel like the narrative, especially in 2005 version of in 2005 part of the story, isn't as well fleshed out as I think it could have been, is because of the time that we have here. This is a this falls into the same trap that a lot of shows with this time with this episode count fall into, where this show has a runtime as total episodes of 6 episodes, with 40 minutes each every episode. That is, or like 40-50 minutes each every episode. That is too little to tell, I think, a video game story, especially what they want to tell here. They're essentially adapting 2 video games into one, and it didn't work for the one that I think they should have prioritized. Yeah, it really messed with the 2005 narrative. I think the 1995 narrative is a lot better. Sometimes some shit from the 1995 narrative never makes it into the 2005 narrative. Like, I feel like they're very two different narratives, and the only thing that really carries over is why Nishiki is doing the things he's doing in 2005. But why wait so long to fucking enact his revenge? I have no idea. But yeah, it's I think the plot is just kind of a mess, and the pacing is kind of bad. Like, everything about the plot and everything about it, what it did, is just kind of messy. Let's talk about the future. For a little bit here. This show's not been renewed for season 2, but it does set up a lot for season 2. For example, it's left in the air if Nijiki and Aiko live at the end, and it's set up that Kazama is the original dragon of Dojima that that Kazuma looked up to when he was a child. They could go places there. I'm not sure they'd be good, but they could go places. It wouldn't be an adaptation of Yakuza 2 entirely, which weird, but okay. But yeah, they could go in the direction. I feel like if they do go in that direction, now that the 1995 plot is mostly finished and mostly and mostly like done, in a potential season 2, they could flesh out more the current plot. But that's if it gets made. I'm not sure if it will get made, but if it gets made, then sure, we could see that happen. But I'm not sure if a season 2 is possible. But that is definitely, I feel that's definitely a plus. Not the 90s part of the story is done. Now we can truly focus on the main narrative that we should have been focusing on since the very beginning. But I feel like what might happen is that they might do flashbacks for Kazama and his time as being the Dragon Dojima, and that's gonna be fucking weird. That's gonna be really weird, but whatever, yeah. In conclusion, Like of the Yakuza suffers a lot from not being loyal to its original video game adaptation, to its original video game predecessor, and it does a lot of baffling decisions that really do hurt it as a show, and the overall disloyalness is a negative rather than a positive, and I would not recommend it to fans of the series and people who would like to get into the series. Which is why I am giving Like a Dragon Yakuza a D tier rating. Not good. Bad. Yeah. So, yeah. What did you guys think about Like a Dragon Yakuza? Leave in the comments below. All of our socials are in the description. If you like this episode, you can follow us on Spotify. If you want to see more content of us, follow us on Spotify. Subscribe to us on YouTube. If you like this episode, rate us on Spotify. Like the video on YouTube. And if you think it's worth sharing, share it around. Let other people know about Media Faye. So, yeah. That's about it. See ya.